Hello and welcome to another edition of Here's the Pitch, sponsored by Massa's Restaurants in St. Louis. 5 locations, stlmassas.com is their website. Find the menus, directions to that beautiful restaurant wherever you're going. If you're in Newtown, if you're in Baldwin, you'll find it. They're doing curbside, they're doing online. You can go in, get some toasted ravioli. I'm excited about Massa's being the title sponsor. I've got my Nasty Boy shirt on here today. I'll talk about that in a little bit. 1990 Cincinnati Reds shirt. But talking about pasta, somebody who loves pasta is my buddy Mike Richter. Hello, Mike. You're going to get a lot of big gift cards from this guy right here because I appreciate you being part of this show. People love the numbers. I'm finding people are excited and they want to see what we're going to do next.
Right, and we're getting, by the time we count down and you use all the numbers, maybe we're playing a baseball game, but this is just a start.
That's a very good point. So today, first of all, I would like to discuss my shirt. I'm wearing today my 1990 Nasty Boys shirt. So
it's like a Rob Dibble, Brett Myers,
Randy Myers,
and
then Norm Charlton. So the 7th inning guy got his own shirt, or was on part of a shirt. This was the champion
for a while too.
That's right. He was the closer for the Mariners, but this is the 90 champion team, and my family, I had family who lived there, so I kind of got on the bandwagon. As a kid, I was a pitcher. I was a little fat, portly pitcher. I looked like Rob Dibble. So he's kind of one of my favorite pitchers in the old days. He just had this rare back and fire thing. So Nasty Boys for this week.
Swept the A's.
They did, in 4, and it was the end of the Bash Brothers, then the Tony La Russa. Anyway, Rob Dibble wore number 49. Today we're going to talk about number 41. Number 41 for the Cardinals. So, again, let's review. We've done, 3, 30, 22, 12. And so, day 41, who's your first when you think of 41? If you had a thought?
This is going to sound a weird one because he's 4, but Yachty, just coming up. And that was the initial number before he made the switch. So that's what pops at me right away.
All right, so that is interesting because a lot of people might not even remember that he wore number 41. Mine is Alan Bennis. I don't know why. I guess because when Andy was wearing number 40, I always think of Alan Bennis wearing number 41. But as you'll see, not a lot to choose from here, number 41. Are you ready?
Right, I'm ready. Let's get into it.
All right, so we like to skip through the early guys because we don't really know a lot about them. But Lanny Miggins, 1948, it was the first number 41. Here's what's interesting is if you go back and start looking, right around the number 39, 40, they didn't really have to wear these numbers until the late 40s or 50s because they didn't retire numbers. So 41, as we're getting there, if you think about it as a Cardinal number, the first guy to wear it was in 1948, Larry Miggins. Congratulations, Larry. Okay, we'll move on.
Wow.
Lindy McDaniel wore it in the late 50s and early 60s. I know the McDaniel name because of my dad. He loved the McDaniel brothers. Lindy and... oh, boy, I can't remember I was just going to say Lanny, but I don't remember his brother's name, but they both pitched for the Cardinals, just like Andy and Alan Bennis. There's always a tie.
Hey.
We'll move on. Roger Craig in 1964. Roger Craig was a Cardinal, kind of a sidewinder, but then the Giants manager in the 80s. I don't remember people putting those two together. I don't remember Vin Scully ever mentioning that during the playoffs in 87 as a kid. But Roger Craig is remembered as all Cardinals from championships teams are. If we name Pete Falcone, they remember him. But Roger Craig's remembered because he pitched on the 64 Cardinals. It was a big deal. And we'll move on. Ted Sizemore is the next big name, 71 to 75. Didn't see him play, wasn't alive, but I know the name and I know he played a lot of baseball. And I don't think he was the actor that was Tom Sizemore is who I'm thinking.
No, don't get those two confused. Okay. I made that mistake before.
Pete Falcone is next. He was a lefty. I sort of remember seeing him pitch. I remember the name. I think he was a Cub. We're having a lot of trouble here with 41 the first 40 years it was in.
It's a rough go.
I guess Ted Sizemore was a pretty big name, but didn't do much.
Yeah.
John Fulghum pitched in the Cardinals. He didn't pitch in the 82 World Series. I thought he was a part of the 82. John Fulghum. He was the next one to wear it. And then Steve Baker. Tell me when I get to someone that Steve Baker, 1983.
A couple away.
Okay, Steve Baker. I didn't watch the Cardinals in 1983. Still a little too young, but I usually feel like I know a lot of the people who played for them. I've never heard of Steve Baker, but I like the name. Andy Hassler in 1985. I when you watch the Heck of a Year video, and there's not a lot of Andy Hassler, but I've seen him pitch once. He's a lefty, wasn't on the team long, pitched in April, number 41. 1986, Bill Early. He pitched
footnote guys here.
He pitched early for the Cardinals in '86, not late. He wasn't around either. I remember the name kind of, but Bill Early. Okay, 1987. Joe Mcgrane wears it. All right, no, Joe Mcgrane wears number.
In the discussion now.
Okay, so number 41, a rookie. I think he won 9 games. He set some rookie records, and I believe he started. I should have done some research, but I believe he started Game 7 of the 1987 World Series.
Yep.
And so here's a rookie who I don't know if people really were giving him enough credit for what he was doing in '87. First of all, the '87 rotation was completely mashed up. John Tudor had his leg broken by Barry Lyons. Danny Cox, I think, broke his foot, had a ball off his foot, so he had a broken foot for 3 months. I think Bob Forsch led the team with like 11 wins in 1987. It's amazing that team won 95 games. It's one of my favorite teams. But Joe Mcgrane gets overlooked by that rotation as he kind of held it together a little bit.
Yeah, he was really good in that season, and he became a guy that around for a little bit and a good name. And I actually have a good Joe Mcgrane story, and this all ties into my mother because my mother is very.
Whoa! This is a PG rated, Mike.
It is. Okay. So we get to Chicago and we're in the bleachers in the Ivy, and McGrane's out there during BP, and my mom yells down, trying to get a kid an autograph or something like that, and just her favorite player was Joe Mcgrane, and you know him, he's kind of a brass guy as you see him on broadcasts and things like that. So she goes, "Joe, we came all the way from St. Louis to see you guys," and he goes, "Yes, so did I." It's a good story.
Nice guy, yeah. No, I have an Albert Pujols story like that. It's not as good as friendly, but Albert didn't have he's got all these great. Everybody loves to talk about Albert, but I was at spring training one time and I was behind the fence and Albert was surly, a lot. And so I remember this one time these kids are screaming as Albert comes off after the 5th inning of a game at spring training, and you can hear him, "Albert, Albert, Albert," and they're just screaming and they just want him this attention, And they keep screaming and screaming. And I hear one kid go, "Albert, we drove 20 hours to see you." And he gets around the foul pole, comes behind the thing, and I heard him to say to nobody, "We'll drive 20 back." And that was it's one of my Albert stories. I unfortunately have it. You mentioned Joe Mcgrane and Wrigley, so this brought back a memory of mine. My first game ever at Wrigley Field was 1988. It was a birthday present. Grandma, Grandpa, Dad, and Mom. We went to the game. Joe Mcgrane, I believe they won 5-0, but I'm fairly certain he pitched a one-hitter that day. I think it was August 12th, 1988. And I've never seen video of it until some guy on YouTube posted his first day at Wrigley Field, and it's that exact game. YouTube is the greatest thing ever.
Wow.
By the way, I got to mention this is on YouTube. If you listen to these, you can also see us, and we support these with video. So enjoy watching our YouTube clips here. So Joe Mcgrane, number 41, wears it only 1 year, 1987. 1998 or 1988, he moves to 32. I believe the story there was he was a huge fan of Steve Carlton, and he was a left-hander, and he wanted to look like Steve Carlton. Unfortunately, didn't stay healthy enough, and wasn't really the Steve Carlton that we would like to have had in 1970. So Scott Arnold wears it in 1988. Wasn't he like on the different Strokes character? I don't know. I feel like that was like a name of a sitcom, Scott Arnold.
Well, not a lot of those people are alive still, so let's hope not.
Scott Arnold, I remember righty. Again, all these guys, Bill Early, Andy Hassler. I don't remember Steve Baker, but Scott Arnold pitched a little bit early on in their years, but did not finish season. So Scott Arnold wore it in 1988. I don't know if anybody wore it in 1989 because it doesn't say so. But then this bit of irony always makes me laugh. I've always wanted to talk about in 1990. Tom Niedenfuer becomes a Cardinal. He wears number 41, and he was not good at this point in his career. Imagine trading for who else would you? Who was the guy that gave up the triple to Freeze? Who's threw hard 99 miles an hour?
Neftali Feliz?
Yeah, so it's like having Neftali Feliz. Yeah, and it's like having him only 10 years later after his career. I mean, all of the worst moment of someone's career, now he's going to pitch for the Cardinals. I don't. It's almost like he's off limits. He shouldn't be a Cardinal. But in 1990, anything went, and Tom Niedenfuer was a Cardinal.
Right. I just couldn't imagine signing a contract and having those I mean, that PTSD from giving up those bombs and then just coming on the team like that and just being like, oh yeah, this is fine. I'm going to play here. And it's funny because, Pedro Guerrero was the first baseman for the Cardinals that year too. So
a lot of different moving parts. Well, I remember watching Eden Fuhr pitch that year, and because he was known for just like gas, like he just threw fastballs. He had a changeup,
right.
And 2-pitch pitcher, and he didn't have a fastball at this point, and he looked really old. I don't even understand what that was. I mean, it seems like by the time Gussie died in '89, no one was really running the team. Like it was almost like somebody. I remember like you'd hear KMOX. I got a friend at the brewery who says the Cardinals are going to get Ryan Sandberg for Tom Niedenfuhr, Luis Alicea, and Steve Dixon. Can you guys like, I think the fans were starting to make the moves.
Right.
Well, 1991, so Dean Fuhr doesn't make it through 90. Jamie Moyer. We've talked about Jamie Moyer before. He wears number 41. We got all kinds of fun names wearing number 41. Jamie Moyer did not win a game as a Cardinal. He won 260 or so before and after. Again, that's my favorite stat. What Cardinal pitcher did not ever win a game, but has won the most games in the major leagues? It's Jamie Moyer. It's my favorite stat that I ever looked up.
Right. And he was released like by two other teams before, once before and once after, and still went on to win 200 games. I'm sure there's not a lot of people made of that ilk too. Yeah,
the Cubs gave up on him. The Rangers gave up on him. I don't remember if it was right after this he went to Seattle, but he has this amazing career in Seattle. So, and then he pitched when he was 49 for the Phillies. So rubber arm Jamie Moyer. 1992, the Cardinals pick up Andres Galarraga. Now this, I thought, okay, we got Andres, we got the big cat. I mean, this guy was in his prime. He's in his prime, and okay, we got Pedro Guerrero on this team. This 92 team could be pretty good. They actually weren't as bad as you possibly remember if you go back and look. But Galarraga comes, he gets hit on the hand, I think, 10 games in, 15 games in, and it just destroys his whole season. We didn't get the real Galarraga, and then he goes on to Colorado and becomes one of the Broad Street bullies, or Bash bullies, or whatever they called him. But man, having the big cat, I just wish we could have had a little more of him.
Yeah, he was a guy defensively. I don't know if there's been a parallel to him since. His agility and his range, and he was just an imposing figure at first base, which we've seen some, but none so silky defensively for such a big guy to move so quickly, and hence the name the Big Cat. Would have liked to have seen that work out, but it worked out for him.
It did work out for him. I don't know how was he? I'm trying now to think. Was he part of the expansion draft? I guess I don't think he was plucked from the Cardinals. I think, or maybe he was a free agent. Again, we don't do a lot of fact checking on this, but we're just thinking about
nor prep.
I just look at names and numbers and I just run through them.
Right.
I remember Galarraga having 2 home runs in one game that I went to against Chris Hammond, and it looked like things were getting better for him, but it just sucks. It would have been fun to have Galarraga. Who knows what happens? It's just one of those. Wow, he was a Cardinal, but. 1992, fun year, Andres Galarraga. All right, so I mentioned Scott Arnold, Niedenfuhr, Bill Early. We have a few more of those names before we even get to Alan Bennis. Todd Burns wears it in 1993. This is when I was in peak fandom. I thought the 93 team was going to be fairly solid. They had this series against the Phillies at home where they took 3 of 4. They bashed Curt Schilling at the beginning of July, and the one thing they really needed was just a little bullpen help. So they went and they got Todd Burns, a former Oakland A, and all he did was start fires. He was miserable. Todd Burns wore number 41 in 1993. Do you have any Todd Burns memories?
I don't have any Todd Burns stories.
I just remember every time that Joe Torre brought him in, it was miserable. So that year they did not.
You could say that a lot for the 90s pitching staff, especially in the back end.
Well, like I said, I think that's the bullpen that they still may have had Juan Augusto, Rob Murphy, Bob McClure, Lee Guterman, I know was on this staff. There's no Tom Henke's or Todd Worrells or Lee Smith. Well, Lee Smith was still here, I guess, at this point. But Tom Urbani wore it in 93 and 94. Urbani was pretty good. But I don't have any great Tom. I mean, just it's Tom Urbani. Nice guy.
It's tough here.
Little lefty. Now, this guy I remember pitching maybe 3 games, Steve Dixon. He had a crazy lefty. He was a lefty, and he had a crazy curveball and a crazy fun windup. Just couldn't get guys out, but he pitched 3 or 4 games. I remember Steve Dixon just a little bit, but 1994, 93, 95, not a lot going. Rich DeLucia is the next one to wear it, which we mentioned last time or one time. He was the leader in the team with 8 wins out of the bullpen in wins. Rich DeLucia, number 41 in 1995. Okay. Then Alan Bennis in 1996. Alan Bennis, by the way, wore number 40, if people don't know. He wore number 40 for a couple games in 1995 because Andy wasn't here, and it was a tribute. And then they unite or reunite or whatever together. What do you call that? If you haven't been together, well, they reunited, I guess, but to get whatever.
Reunited and it feels so good.
So he shows up. He was the number 1 draft choice, I believe, in 1993. 1996, he's like Joe Mcgrane, maybe one of the best, one of those rookie seasons that you'll remember, because he was really good. Got him into, helped them get to the 1996 NLCS. He pitched Game 6, the Game
Critical.
6. Yeah, and they lost 2-1, but like he held it together. It was, man, you felt pretty good about going to Atlanta and having Alan Bennis go. He was good, and then just the damn arm problems. I mean, who knows how good he would have been.
Right. He was on the right path. I think there was a point in time where his peak might have been better than his brother's.
Could have been.
And the trajectory was looking up. And then, those dang arm issues.
Could have in '97. You could have had Alan Bennis and Matt Morris back to back. Like that would have, but Alan Bennis was hurt. Matt Morris had a great '97 rookie campaign. So they started figuring out how to draft pitching at least, as they knew they didn't have much as they were watching the
change of the guard.
They were watching Todd Burns. So Alan Bennis held that number through the rest of the century, and then in 2000, Jason Christensen comes in, lefty. He was pretty good, and was a pickup for Walt Jocketty to help the bullpen. Always trying to help the bullpen. This is like a Cardinal thing. Go get that lefty from the Marlins or the Pirates, and hope it works out. Sometimes it does. Christensen was pretty good. Not a lot going on there. All right, number 41 in 2001, Jason Carnuth. Jason Carnuth was a rookie. He actually got to start like 5 games. So DK unfortunately dies. But before that, there was all kinds of different pitchers coming up. I think Josh Pierce was a name of a guy who started. Simo came up at this point. A bunch of guys in 02 got to pitch. This is 01, though. Jason Carnuth. He wasn't part of the 02 staff. Actually, he was, but he didn't wear number 41. See?
I also have Pat Hanken is a 41 in 2000.
I don't know why it's missing, but yes, Pat Hanken, of course, was on that team. I don't know. I wonder how I missed that, but yes, that was a big free agent sign or a trade. I can't remember either or, but a big name in 2000. They needed a starting pitcher, and he brought his handlebar mustache over, and he was great. And I don't know how that wasn't on my list.
He was a Cy Young winner, right?
The
Blue Jays?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, he was.
Okay. They talked about Pat Hanken. Well, it was Kyle, Hanken, Bennis, and then you had Ankiel as one of your starters, along with, I believe, Garrett Stevenson. So your 2000 staff, all those guys, I believe, started over 30 games, but they needed like some of that veteran leadership. Mike Richter is looking.
96 Cy Young Award winner.
Well, give me some numbers there in Pat Hanken.
He was 3.22 ERA, 177 strikeouts, and he won the AL Cy Young in 96. Wow. 2010 was the record.
All right. I don't remember that. I guess Roger Clemens was hurt and Pedro wasn't really doing his thing. Well, Pedro might have been still in the National League at that point. So, shout out to Pat Hanken.
Yeah.
I don't know how I missed that. That's my bad. Or if it's Baseball Reference is bad. I'm taking these from Baseball Reference. Miguel Cairo wore it in 02 and 03 as a bench player. We talked about
this is his 3rd time on our lists.
He wore number 3. He did wear number 12, and this is the 3rd time, although this is his first time as a Cardinal. And I've mentioned it before in 02. If you look up his NLDS numbers, he hit like 545, could have been the MVP of the NLDS, helped them get to the NLCS in 02. Miguel Cairo. We love Miguel Cairo. I love Miguel Cairo myself. We're just naming off names now. Sterling Hitchcock, another guy, comes over in 03, lefty. I'm starting to get like tired as I start thinking of these names and just all the. Sterling Hitchcock was a Yankee and a Padre, and he pitched a little bit, but didn't do well. Didn't do great.
He was a Padre, and he actually had a 5-1 record with the Cardinals in that 2003 season. But his in the ERA was 3.79, but his fielding independent pitching was 5.27. So a lot of luck for Sterling Hitchcock to get to 5-1 in his 6 games started for the Birds that year.
Are people still using FIP? I didn't know that. I thought that was over.
Really? Why?
I just thought it was a fad. I thought it was a thing like in 2015.
No.
Okay. You can use it. I don't like it.
I will use it. It's an indication of... well, never mind. That's a rabbit hole we don't have time for because this is a Zoom call and we're out of time.
Yeah, we're trying to rush through this to get through the 30 minutes to free. Thank you, Zoom. This is brought to you by Zoom. We talked about Yadi Molina comes up mid-June of 04. He wears it in 04 and 05, then changes to 4. I wonder what his thought process was there. I don't know if it's because Albert was wearing number 5. He wanted to be close, just that, like he wanted to sit next to him in the locker room. And at that point, they were sitting people by number. I don't know what changed, but number 4 seems way better on him than number 41.
Right. And did he get an extension within those first couple of years? Because that might have been a brass thing too to kind of shift him around a little bit.
Could be. I did just post on YouTube a video of Yadi just throughout the years at spring training when I got to observe him. So you can check that out here on ST Weekly. Yadi was always good to me, and one of my favorite stories about him was asking him to do an interview. And I said, I don't really want to talk about catching. All I want to do is just take video of your tattoos and have you describe them. And he goes, yeah, I don't want to do that today, Brad. I don't want to talk about them. So then I was a little scared. Well, I was scared. I wanted to know, and then it seemed like they might have more meaning than I probably should have been asking about, is what I gathered from that conversation.
It'll be more subtle, Brad.
Yeah, he said don't ever ask about him again, by the way. So in 2006, Braden Looper shows up. Braden Looper, part of that bullpen that helped the Cardinals win a world championship, and then he becomes a starter, I believe, in 07 and 08. And was fairly okay to be a starter, but we got him. He was a Cardinal before, and then we got Edgar Renteria for him, along with we sent Ozuna. Pedro? What was his name? No, I might be wrong. I think I'm wrong.
It's okay.
We'll let people comment about us not doing much research. Boy, I'm going to have to look that up, though, on my own, just what that guy's name was. But anyway, Braden Looper was number 41. Pretty good.
Yeah. Good time here. And he was a good guy to have around. Did a little bit in media-wise on his way out.
41, again, rough. But then the guy who wore it very long, almost longer than anyone on the list, crazily, Mitchell Boggs. Him and Ted Sizemore tied for probably the longest. He wore it for 5 seasons. I love Mitchell Boggs. He's a very funny guy. I never understood why it didn't work out for him. He just seemed like he had a lot of good stuff, and it just maybe just couldn't figure out where it was going.
Yeah, you get flashes in the pan, and then the rotation was turning over. You'd be excited for him to pitch again, and then it was kind of one of those games. And there are some ones where people hung 8 or so runs on him in a game, and it's like after a game where he had 7-8 strikeouts. So it was interesting, but he was good enough to stick around as a 4-5 and be part of some decent teams. So,
he's a world champion on the 2011 team.
Yep.
He allowed me to pretty much do anything I wanted back in the day when I worked at Fox. So one time I mic'd him and Blake Hawksworth up. There's a number, 53, Blake Hawksworth.
Wow.
I mic'd him up during a game. Tony La Russa was always cool about letting us do this. And I said, guys, just talk. I want to hear what you guys talk about during the game. And all they did for the first 5 innings was just broadcast the game. And they had this kind of faux broadcast team that they were doing. They were like Harry Styles or something, or not Harry Styles. But there wasn't a lot of chatter. We came back to the tape, and I ran up to him. I go, guys, we may have to do this a couple more times because there's not a lot there. He goes, we don't do a lot of talking back there. That we gave you what we had. So love me some Mitchell Boggs. I actually got to play catch with him, I believe. Him and Jason Mott. Was it him? It was Mitchell Boggs. I played catch with him at spring training. A little nervous. It's hard to, because I was I was kind of touting my arm. Like, let's see it. And I'm like, oh, shit. It was kind of early in the morning. It was okay. It was fun. Brock Peterson's the next 41. I sort of don't remember Brock Peterson. And this is only...
I don't remember Brock Peterson at all. And this is sad because now we're talking years that we should remember within the past 2 decades. This is a name I completely whiffing on.
Yeah, barely. Must not have played a lot of games. Although it looked like he did play a few games. I thought I looked him up and it was like, oh, he had like 40 at-bats. But, Well, yeah, Brock Peterson. Then Pat Neshek
All right.
was wearing 41. Gave up one of the worst home runs in Cardinal playoff history, I think, though, right? I mean, that's what I remember him for. I love Pat Neshek, but
yeah, but he was a lot more than that. He kind of had his resurgence, and it was good to see. And I don't know, I was a Neshek fan for sure.
I was too. That Adam Wainwright game in San Francisco, I was like, man, if they win this game, who knows? They got Game 7, and then it's like, let's go. And Wainwright pitched his heart out, and then that happened. It's just, and I don't blame. I mean,
Travis Ishikawa.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Was that? And then is that the Waka game, right? Because
that was a walk-off
in extra innings. That's Waka. So Neshek's wearing that number, and then in 2014, the Cardinals trade maybe the last great deadline day. Like, whoa, holy shit, what a trade! They're trying John Lackey for Alan Craig. Like, I remember that. Like, oh, how did they pull that off? Because we all knew Alan Craig was done, or it seemingly was done.
Not only that, they dumped a ton of salary, and Lackey had that clause into his contract where they ended up paying him a prorated salary for the following year due to that. So they shed a ton of money just in that transaction alone, and got a guy who was completely solid for them for the rest of 14 into 15, was maybe at part of their times their best pitcher, especially in the playoffs.
I wanted him back. I thought it was like having him as a Cardinal, and again having that chance to sort of have conversations with him, which I did. There wasn't a lot there. Like, what you saw is what you got. He just was this Texas hick, kind of an ornery fella. But I love, that's the kind of guy you want to pitch in a playoff game. I remember when they went up to Chicago, and it was that same thing. It's like, oh man, if Lackey can get us through this game, it was 2015 Game 4 up there. Man, if Lackey can kind of be Lackey and just be that postseason guy, and that didn't work out that night for him, and then it was over, and then he went to be a Cub, which I was pissed. I'm like, sign this, keep this guy around. He didn't do much for the Cubs, but he did.
Lester combo and those guys beating us in 13, and then seeing it. Lackey losing that Game 4 after stealing Game 1, and then
he's sad. Well, it was that window closing, as I've talked about a million times. Like, I was sitting, just being there, thinking, "Wow, this is what it's like to see a team's win." Like what the '92 Pirates had to feel like, the '94 Blue Jays, or '93. Like you don't win that playoff series. Well, '94 they didn't even get a chance, obviously, but just teams that were so good for so long, and then it's like you got all these guys that are old. The '98 Bulls, as I always like to the Last Dance. 2016 Jeremy Hazelbaker, good guy, bench guy, didn't do a lot. Eric Fryer in 2017, backup catcher. He had a lot of hits. Remember, everyone got so excited, like, man, we got to keep Eric Fryer. We should play Eric Fryer more. Like, and then he went to Pittsburgh and he started just mauling the ball. Helped them kind of beat us.
I don't think he's on a team.
Yeah, he's probably out of baseball, Eric Fryer. Later on, Breivik, Valera-ish. I've seen watched a lot of Cardinals, I don't remember. And now Tyler O'Neill. What is your thought on Tyler O'Neill?
Hey, I think he's this like preseason, whatever that is, but I think there's a lot of preseason expectations for breakout candidates. Now that's been because of opportunity, that's been because of just the raw power and how the game's kind of changed. It's because, there's been a lot of talk about how things have happened with his swing to that he's been working on hard. So, if you have to look at a wild card and see a guy who's shown bits of potential to carry you a few weeks out of the year, it's him. But just, can you get on the bat? Can you stomach 3 nights in a row of 0-for-4s, or can he change that to be that impact player? Because right now there's a chance for people to step up in the outfield and become everyday players. And I think O'Neill's a guy that's right at the top of the list of taking one of those over, and no time is better than now. So if he can figure it out, that'd be great. I think it's a guy that you could probably get extended and get some pretty good longevity into his prime. And you know what you're going to get from him.
Tyler O'Neill, number 41, and that was some fun with 41. I love how you talk about, like, you know, Tyler O'Neill and what he can do. It's very possible these guys won't play for 3 years. And it's crazy to me. I think about guys like Daniel Descalso and John Jay, like guys I'm really like fans of and fairly friendly with. And like they're like 9.75 service time, you know, and like I would think there's going to be all kinds of like, how do you, well, I guess they get their service time this year, so they'll be fine. But next year, if there's a strike, I just get so mad. This is why I don't even want to talk about baseball today, because like, when I hear people talking about, the Cardinal outfield, I mean, what are you going to do if you got all these guys? It's like half of them are going to be 3 years older by the time we actually get on the field. So Tyler O'Neill, I would love to hope that he's going to be more than Randall Grichuk, because if he's the same as Randall Grichuk, he'll have a nice career, but that means the Cardinals will probably be a third-place team all the time, kind of like the Blue Jays. I like Randall. Hits 240, does what he does, is who he is. I'm hoping Tyler O'Neill is a little more. It seems like he'd be the guy that should break out along with Dylan Carlson. Like, this could be your outfield, Dylan and Tyler. And I don't know, I guess Lane Thomas or the third guy, Dexter Fowler, is going to be around for a little more, but.
Yeah, 2021 will be here and gone before we know it on some of these contracts.
Well, 41, yeah. I mean, that's, I guess we're still waiting on our like Hall of Fame number 41. It's got quite the history.
We'll be waiting a while.
I guess you got to go Mcgrane. I mean, there's fun names: Joe Mcgrane, Jamie Moyer, Andres Galarraga, Yadier Molina. But that was fun with 41. Boy, did I have fun! You had fun? I can tell.
I did.
So another thing we like to do here is we open baseball cards. We'll do that at the end, as we always do. People love that. Seemingly, people love to see the baseball cards.
I love it.
I do too. I have a lot of packs here. I hope maybe we'll do two. I don't know. Got 30 minutes here, and got another extra 30 minutes on the Zoom call. But we also like to look at Friday foursome, the four for Friday, the Friday flashback. Anyway, come up with a topic and try to just have some fun with it. We've looked at the worst Cardinal teams in the last 40 years. We looked at 4 Cardinal pitchers the Cardinals picked up in the 90s. Big names didn't work out. One of the things I wrote about was 1980s baseball. And things I miss, just the things I miss from that, you know. And there's some, I would say there's some, there's probably some, what's the word I'm looking for? There'll be some other, what is it called? Honorable mentions is what I'm fishing for.
Okay.
But this is the 4 I picked, and then maybe you can help me along. We'll go down 4-1. Let's go with number 4. I would say the fashion in the 1980s. If you watch like Heck of a Year,
the lack thereof.
Right, even better. In the 80s, if you watch like a 1985 Cardinals World Series, there's a lot of fur. I'd even say the hair is a little high. A lot. But now it's like Cardinal fans wear jerseys. There's always like this, in the 60s you watch, and they're all in their suits and they look good. Everyone's got like top hats and they're dressed well. You get into the 70s, you don't see a lot of video of anything going on in the 70s, but in the 80s, you got like, I guess, tight shirt, bad hair. We'll talk about what my number 1 thing is that you don't see anymore in the 80s. I guess it's things that we miss from the 80s so that's the fashion, I guess, I would say. Because now everyone kind of looks the same. They're all wearing like a Cardinal giveaway or their favorite jersey. And back then, put on your red sweater and your, kind of pop your collar a little bit with your.
Right. There was no Ryan Ludwig jerseys in the 1980s.
No. What was your favorite fashion of the 80s, sir, Mike, at baseball games?
I'd say, the tank top. That was universal. You got the fro and the mustache and the tank top, and just ready to rip it off and celebrate. You think about the guys like jumping on the field with, as part of these celebrations in the 80s and things like that. And it just looks like a lot different. It looks like a different era. And
yeah, that is funny you mentioned that. That could have been something that we put on the list. Fans getting to run on the field during celebrations, because you don't see that anymore. But it just is like, yeah, everybody jump the fence, go celebrate with the team. In 82, it's a sea of people. I guess by 85 that didn't go on in St. Louis, but it did at 86 for the Mets. It feels like that was like the last one, but that's a good one. Well, because the Yankees had it in the early 80s. fans running on the field and just having a good time. Hank Aaron, a couple guys just got to shake his hand. Oh, that's a good one. That's the 70s.
Right.
But
I'd say access as well. So even through the 90s, there was a lot of access in the stadium for kids and behind the scenes and everything like that. And then, rightfully so, one kind of changed that, and it really has got nothing but more intensified since.
Okay, another thing, number 3 I missed from the 80s, going to the ball yard, kind of ball yard specific, is bringing your own sign. I just remember my dad made a sign, and we would take it down. You would be able to hang them along the bleachers, or there was a giant sign area kind of between third base and the foul pole, and there was always a place for a sign. And I remember my dad making one, and we brought one to the game and hung it. I remember the last time I brought a sign was Ron Gant's return to Busch as a Philly, and he had said some really bad things about Tony La Russa. It was a day game, and we decided to have a lot of drinks. We brought a sign, and we started yelling, and we were Ron Gant anti-fan club. And we had that sign. And every time he came out to left field, we held it up. I was way too old to be doing this, but I will say number 1 is on the list. Also happened at that day at Ron Gant. So that's a teaser. But I miss bringing your own sign. The sign guy's still there. That's sort of kitschy, and he's been doing it a long time. But
it's not a culture thing. And sometimes, during the game, they'll say, "Hey, where are you from?" And you hold up a sign. But people got a lot more creative, and you had a little bit more artistic, a little bit more of an artistic leash to be funny and not so PC, things like that. And but now that we have the Cardinals usher Gustavo, you really can't do much in there. Even shirts are regulated. Anything, you remember about the try not to suck shirts and all that drama that caused. And I think I had a Cubs suck shirt at one time that I had turned inside out for a game. It's just like, just let people come out and enjoy some ball yard and have some fun. They're not hurting anybody. You're not going to ruin a 4-year-old's experience by what you have on your shirt. So
you were wearing a Cub shirt? Did you just mention that? Try not to suck.
Cubs suck.
Oh, because then Joe Madden had the try not to suck shirts, and then that got people.
That became a big deal.
Yeah. Number 2, things I missed from 80s baseball and being at the ball yard, theme songs. 1982, we had Celebration. We had The Heat Is On in 85. We had Shakedown in 1987, kind of forgotten. But Beverly Hills Cop 2 was big. Bob Seger, if you go back, I'll play it for you. But Shakedown, Breakdown, Takedown, everybody listen to the run. And then they had the 87 highlights. I think KHTR put it together. 1996, We're Gonna Win by Brian Adams. It was kind of at the end of 96, was sort of a big one. And then in the 2000, I believe, around that area, was the Tony La Russa sung to the Macarena. He squeezes out, wins like an automatic juicer, Tony La Russa.
Yeah.
So no theme songs in baseball, but then it got brought back by the Blues. Ironically, Gloria became...
nice.
Yeah, when I wrote this back in 2014 or wherever I wrote it, theme songs had gone away, but then Gloria came back. So in baseball, we need theme songs again. But this was something I was opining to come back for. And now the Gloria thing was so important to that Blues run. It was Layla, Gloria, Bennington, the things that happened in a championship run. You got to have a theme song. The Cardinals, when they were winning in 2011, they don't have one. The only thing I think about in 2011, I guess, was when you went to the ballpark in 2012, they had the fun song, These Nights or Some Nights, and it kind of, but that was 15, 16 months later. So.
No, and the other thing that was great about Gloria is the Blues transition out of it nicely. Mm-hmm. You turn that page, so you have that song, it's stuck in that moment, and that's it. Whereas, 3 years later in 14, people are still wearing Raleigh Squirrel stuff, and one of the hospitals has a Raleigh Squirrel mask. So it's like, let it go. It was one game. It was an important game, but it's one game. Get over it.
Do it for Torty. I got my Do It for Torty shirt.
Yeah.
So evidently now the Blues were working up Party All the Time by Eddie Murphy. Right. So if things would have continued along the way, we may have been hearing that more. Maybe, I got to guess they're not going to play in St. Louis, so I guess it doesn't matter. But maybe Party All the Time by Eddie Murphy. Maybe we'll get some of that here at the end of this COVID crap.
Maybe that'll be on the telecast to pump that in if they show it. But I will say this. If coronavirus has one casualty, hopefully it's the Six Flags theme song, Vega Bus, whatever the Cardinals use whenever they scored. It's old. It's played out. It has no importance except for just that it's been played. It needs to go. Bye. See ya.
Okay.
Done.
While we're cleansing a lot of things, you have time to let's get rid of everybody. Clap your hands. I mean, that was a Mets thing. 06. All I heard it was at Shea, and then we brought it in, and I said, "This is not. Why are we doing that? We don't need to do this." I got a little angry, and I agree. Cleanse. Let's cleanse some COVID.
Okay.
Honorable mentions. Oh, you have something?
We need to come up with a list. We'll get a petition signed by all of our viewers, and
I even laugh at that, but go ahead.
And we'll
there's more listeners.
We'll get a movement started.
I think there's more listeners. I do see the stats on the listens. People seem to want to wait and listen to it in their car or wherever they go. Honorable mentions: Ozzie flips. Just something you will never see. I mean, Colton Wong has threatened, I think, to do it, and it would be awesome. But I missed the Ozzie flips. It meant it was opening day. It meant it was a playoff game. Don't see it anymore. AstroTurf, kind of making a comeback. All these things I wrote. Like I said, I wrote it in 2013. Wasn't there a stadium that's kind of putting AstroTurf? Is it Arizona or somewhere putting in turf again? It's coming back.
I'm not sure, but it will never be that turf. I mean, that's cement. That was such a vital role in the Cardinals of the 80s because it was that was their thing, and they said, okay, this is the park we play in. This is what we have. What can we do with it? And they put 2 and 2 together and got a great product out of it with speed and great defense.
So those are some of my honorable mentions. Do you have a number one or an honorable mention before I give my number one, which I think is everyone's number? It's going to have to.
I'd say affordability, maybe.
$5 bleacher seats. Walk up and buy bleacher seats or stand in line. I remember that's a good one. I remember you would just go at 5:00, stand in line, but you can. They have like $6 tickets now. I mean, you could sit in the upper deck.
Yeah, you got to get up in the morning and go stand in line, and then you don't know where you're sitting.
I'm going to pass on that.
Practice. I love that. There should be easier ways for a family of 4 to get into a game. At each part of the day, and not for $18 a ticket to stand. I'm gonna challenge you on that one, but okay.
The hot dog costs more than a ticket sometimes, so that's a problem. But so number one on my list of things I missed from the 80s, and I remember I had a female editor, and she thought this was very odd that this is the video I wanted to show over and over for about a minute. But in the 80s, no shirt, no shoes, no problem. You go in, take that shirt off. If you watch any clip from the 80s, there's people bare-chested for miles. It's like Hoosier City. It's the most amazing. Like, if that happened today, people would be like, what the hell is going on here? But back then, it was like, hey, it's 90 degrees, got the shirt off. It's just funny if you go back to YouTube. It's just where I saw it. And you look at the bleachers in Chicago or here or any, I guess, it was mostly Midwestern, I would assume. I don't know if this translated to New York or California. But I know here in the Midwest, if you look at some of these games from the mid-'80s, take the shirt off. Let it go.
Right. Even I was watching the MLB had the Sandberg game on as one of the things.
I call it the Willie McGee game. By the way,
McGree had a great game
cycle
too. And when those balls would go into the bleachers, and even that, it's like, why is there so much red at this Cubs game? I know they were playing the Cardinals in the bleachers, and then you look a little closer. And it was Chicago guys with their shirts off. And they were just beat red because they've been out there for about 4 hours.
It's a long game. Yeah, and back then it didn't matter. So I don't know if I need that back, but I love that it was a thing that could happen. So
that's another thing that's part of that is the no lights, and that kind of shifting the time because, when a lot of the day games were – where teams had primarily day games and that too. You get 1 or 2 a day here and there, but, to have a standard team playing a lot of day games, that's something I kind of miss.
I always say the Cubs are part of my childhood. I came home from school. They were on every day on WGN. I had WGN by 1985, and it kind of course, I loved Harry Carey. I was like, who is this guy? And the game was presented as it should have been, as a party and fun, and the director Arnie Harris was always showing between every pitch there was a fan in a halter top or just this he was finding what made that ballpark special. It was part of the whole thing. and it's why I'm not a Cub fan, but I definitely enjoy watching Cub games still just because of Wrigley. So fun times. Well, we open baseball cards to finish this. I do want to mention, Mike, so coming up, there will be a documentary on Mark McGwire, and evidently they're going to use some of the video from my YouTube channel. So keep an eye on that. The Mark McGwire 30 for 30 with Sammy. We're talking Cubs Cardinals. It's going to be pretty good. They interviewed Sammy. They interviewed McGwire. So those guys haven't really talked about that year really in depth, I don't think, this far out. So I'm looking forward to it. Plus, I'm hoping to see myself on it if I can plug myself.
And it'll be interesting because you think about some of the fallback from the Jordan documentary and some of the things that happened with that and some of the relationships and knowing how Tony is to see the aftermath of if there's anybody in this documentary that might flip or maybe they have one thing that Tony might not like reading some of that stuff coming out of that. I think that'll be kind of like that sidebar that you almost look forward to the aftermath because it's going to happen.
Yeah, Tony always seems to have to do the defense tour after, so you'll be hearing a lot of Tony La Russa interviews over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure.
At one of the ARF meetings.
Well, that's one of my lists. I want to do the 7 things I miss about Tony, and that might be a fun list. We'll do here on the show. Thanks, Mike, for joining. Now I have some baseball cards. I always get your thoughts. I'll let you know what I have here. 92 Leaf.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh, he likes that. All right. So I have 89 Bowman. This is actually bought 89. We'll do that at some point. An 88 score. At some point I want to get, this is a first year of the scorecards. But Mike likes this 92 because I think he's a little younger than me and he likes to see. So I'm going to open the cards here. Hold on. I'm going to put the microphone down. Actually, I'm going to do both at the same time. These are made by Donruss.
Donruss, yeah.
What was your favorite?
I think, I'm trying to think. So 93.
This is Leaf Studio. Leaf Studio.
I went into a Big Lots and they were selling, I believe it was Leaf baseball cards, and the card holder was in a life-size Frank Thomas cardboard cutout. And I took that cardboard cutout home, and it's still in my folks' basement. And I believe it was Leaf. So you brought back a little nostalgia there for me. When I saw that, I immediately went to that moment.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was Leaf.
Leaf Studio 92. First card, a former Cardinal. What am I doing? Oh, over here is where the camera is.
I can't see.
That's Lance Johnson.
Lance, the one dog.
Oh, that's Hawk and Wimpy. That's the one dog. This guy had a good career. Former Cardinal. He was a Cardinal to start. The backs of these cards don't have stats. I don't know if they're all like this, but I'm already not liking this pack. It's just you have to do a lot of reading. So we'll play that. This guy, I think, came. Go ahead. Did you have?
Yeah, he was a fun guy.
Well, I have fallen. I mean, I am always a fan of YouTube. I'm their biggest supporter. I've always loved YouTube. There's a guy who's putting up highlights from ESPN doing just highlights of 96, 94, 92, 93. So Lance Johnson shows up all the time. He played a lot of teams. Wasn't he on the 2000 Mets and he was on the 87 Cardinals? He kind of goes back and he was a long-time player. And he wasn't a power guy, but he stuck around and played a lot of years. So Lance Johnson, he was on the 1987 Cardinal team, number 21 on your roster. This was number 23, former Yankee, and then a Red.
That's the second time we've had
Hal Morris. I don't like these cards at all. If you're looking at them, you can see it's just like a pose and then another pose. Wouldn't you? With a black and white. So Hal Morris, we talked about, pretty good hitter of the 90s with the Reds. That was card number 24 in your Leaf 92 studio. All right, we got a big one here, folks. I don't think it's a rookie, but Albert Bell.
Yeah, that was a good one.
He was Indians' second-round pick in 1987, according to this, made his major league debut. So he'd already become Albert. Joey would be the card you would get in 1987 or 88. I would say Joey Bell, but now he's Albert. Let's
hope people still remember that 97 Indians team and just even the 95 team. I mean, the Indian teams, I hope they don't get lost because some of those are just power mongrels, and Bell was one of those.
MLB Network did a great documentary on that, dismantling of it, and Albert Bell was the first guy they let go. And then Kenny Lofton was let go, and Jim Tomei was let go, and it was I think a lot of the guys were did we have to dismantle this so fast? We were still in the middle of this. It's always that when do you rebuild thing, and boy, I would be on the side of milk this greatness, and we'll take the greatness now, and we'll see what happens later. But they could have won a little more probably if they kind of.
And everybody remembers the Albert Bell Fernando Vina thing as well for a little Cardinal tie-in, even though that didn't happen while he was a Cardinal.
True. And then the Albert Bell trying to get his bat that he corked at the White Sox game, which is the greatest story ever, climbing. Who did he send a pitcher? I can't remember. Jason Grimsley was the pitcher that went climbing in Comiskey Park's ceiling of the umpire room, and he fell through. There's got to be a 30 for 30 on that on some day. But this is not that day, but a great story. Andujar Cedeno is the next card, an Astro. Moving on. He was okay. It's a Heritage Series. This thing is really thick, whatever this is, unless these two are put together. Oh, these two are together, so they're back to back. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Scott Leius, I remember him. He was a catcher.
I do not.
For the Twins. His hobbies include sports and music. He likes rock and roll music. His favorite actor is Robert De Niro. His favorite movie is Raging Bull. And he'd like to meet General MacArthur. So that's fun on the back of this card, I guess. He loves to
think he did?
So this is good. He loves to face Chuck Finley. He hates to face Mark Langston. I like those little notes there.
Okay.
Actually, let's see what Albert Bell said while we're at it. He loves to face Chuck Finley. I don't know if he answered that, but he was 7 for 15 at 467. So his hobbies were golf, reading, and video games. His favorite group is Public Enemy. His favorite actor is Danny Glover. His favorite book was Malcolm X. His favorite movie is Silence of the Lambs. Okay. And he would like to meet Vanessa Williams. I'm going to read more of these, I think, once we get further on here. But that Albert Bell was...
Get somebody good.
Heritage. Oh, we got a good one after this. This is a Heritage Classic card, so Carlton Fisk.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So... nothing really on the back there, but the next one I'm really interested to read.
Get a lot of those 90s White Sox guys.
Got Nails, Lenny Dykstra. Great nickname.
All right.
His hobby is golf. He likes country and Western music. And when he grows up, he wants to be a financial advisor, it says. And it doesn't say that, but you've seen his story. Like, he had all these great financial advice, and it was cuckoo. Lenny Dykstra. Wally Backman.
He's active on the social medias.
Wally Backman is his best friend, he says.
No, that's nuts.
Favorite actors.
You've seen the Wally Backman doc too, right?
Favorite. Yeah, he lied about his resume, right? His favorite actor is Al Pacino. Pat Kelly's the next one, former Cardinal in 1998. Doesn't have a lot of fun there, but he's 0 for 9 against Roger Clemens. So I'm guessing they just put who these guys did well against and who they didn't. Here's a rookie, probably. Steve Avery in 1992 was a rookie, or probably right around there.
Yeah. And man, he when he joined that rotation, he already had three Hall of Famers, and then Avery was just like, come on, this is getting ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure he's pitch in the background there. He's pitching. I love when the baseball card was taken at Busch Stadium. It looks like that could be Busch. I always got a kick out of that. I remember Bo Diaz in 1985 had a card, and he was at Busch Stadium. He loves strawberry cheesecake is on there. And Kent Merker and Deion Sanders were his best friends, and he would love to meet Abe Lincoln. Jim Abbott, another great of that era. I love Jim Abbott. One thing you don't know about me, I only have one hand. I thought we knew that. No, I'm kidding. That doesn't say that. Would like to meet Neil Young. His favorite talk show host is David Letterman. So I like that. And his best friend is Kirk McCaskill. Jim Abbott, there should be a story. Why is there no 30 for 30 on Jim Abbott? The man would literally change the glove on his hand in mid-delivery. It's crazy. And he batted. And he hit.
At least 2 hits, right?
Yeah, and he got hits. Oh, the Hawk, Andre Dawson. Love me, Andre Dawson. Right. I'm sure you do. You're a Cub fan. Of course, you've said that a million times.
Hall of Famer.
Hobby is fishing. His favorite singer is Whitney Houston. His favorite actor is James Earl Jones. His favorite movie is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He would love to meet Bill Cosby. Probably not anymore, I would think. Tim Raines. The Hawk was so great, but I still believe Jack Clark should have been the MVP.
Why did you say Tim Raines?
That was his best friend. He would like.
Oh, that's his best friend.
Yeah, it's his best friend in baseball, Tim Raines. Former Expos together. I think Jack Clark should have been the MVP in 1987. I know Andre hit 48 home runs and 130 RBIs, but he was on a 5th place team. MVP never should be a 5th place. Should never be a Cub for real.
Okay.
And lastly, George Bell, former Cub, former White Sox. At this time, he's in the White Sox. Pretty good pack here. His favorite actress. Okay, this is good. Jamie Lee Curtis. His favorite movie is Basic Instinct. And he likes geography books. I got to be honest. I am going to buy a freaking box of these packs so I can just read the backs of these.
You didn't like him at first. You're like, I have to read all this thing, and now you're hooked.
This is the winning pack of all packs because I love these. And at some point, I want to pull some names of people I know and then see if I can say, did you say this? That your favorite is spaghetti bolognese? That's like your favorite dish? So that was a fun pack. We had Andre Dawson, George Albert Bell, Lenny Dykstra. I mean, that's a good. I don't know how many they released that year because some of these packs were just like 30.
I like that pack.
300s, but that was a good pack of cards. I had fun there, Mike.
Yeah, same.
This was fun. I always have big fun with you, Mike. I hope you're enjoying your time with COVID and all the fun stuff that's going on in your world.
Yeah, I'm ready to be done, and hopefully we'll progress. The big kids and the MLB Players Association and the league. Hopefully we get some more traction because we're running out of time. Yeah,
I don't think we're going to see any baseball for a while, and that's sad, but you know what? That's why we talk about the old stuff. We're not going to sit here. Right. We're just going to enjoy. I do want to show this, my favorite player, and I went and did a whole dig through my cards, and I've got John Tudor, full banana in 1984 with the Pirates.
Pillbox hat.
I love that jersey, and I love me some John Tudor. All right, so that'll do it. Thanks, Mike. That's another edition of Here's the Pitch. We hope you're enjoying these. We try to put these out once a week, so thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. You can go to YouTube, just search ST Weekly, and you can find all the fun stuff. I'm putting up stuff every day, Mike. I'm just trying to see how many things I can find and put up there and make a real channel. That's exciting, isn't it?
I'm digging it.
Yeah, you're going to get a whole thing of toaster raviolis from Masses for this, so I appreciate you being part of it.
Masses is the greatest.
It is. You have to say that. All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next time.